The early sun filtered through the glass walls of Rosewood Rehabilitation Center, casting a soft glow over the quiet lobby. Michael Carter, 33, pushed the door open with one hand while holding his 6-year-old son Ethan's hand with the other. Ethan skipped beside him, full of curiosity as they made their way through the center's polished hallways. "Daddy, will she be there again today?" Ethan asked, his brown eyes glowing with excitement. Michael glanced down, adjusting the strap of his janitor's supply bag. "I don't know, buddy. But remember, if she is, you have to be kind and gentle." Ethan nodded solemnly, as if preparing for something very important. Michael had started working at Rosewood just 2 weeks ago, desperate for a job after being laid off from his IT firm and losing his wife to cancer shortly after. Raising Ethan alone hadn't been easy. The center was the first place that didn't seem to mind him bringing Ethan along during late shifts, mostly because Ethan was quiet and well-behaved. And then they met her. Luna. She sat every day in the sunroom, on the same beige armchair, hands folded neatly in her lap. Long honey blonde hair fell over her pale shoulders. Her milky blue eyes stared straight ahead at nothing. She was blind and silent. She was also the daughter of Gregory Montgomery, tech billionaire, CEO of Orion Systems, and one of the richest men on the West Coast. The nurses spoke about her in whispers. "She hasn't said a word since the accident," one of them told Michael. "Her mom died in a car crash. Luna was in the back seat. That was 2 years ago. Now she was 8, still not a word, still no response, not even to her own father, who funded the entire pediatric trauma wing at Rosewood for her care." The first time Ethan saw Luna, he was holding a packet of dinosaur stickers. He approached her gently, while Michael watched nervously from his mop bucket. "Hi," Ethan said, "I'm Ethan. I like dinosaurs. Do you like dinosaurs?" No response. He sat cross-legged beside her chair and peeled off a green Stegosaurus sticker. "This one's Spike. He's my favorite. I can give him to you if you want." Luna didn't speak, but she moved. Her hand reached forward, slow and trembling, and touched the sticker. She took it. Michael stood still, stunned. From that day on, Ethan visited her every afternoon. He'd sit and talk to her, about bugs, cartoons, the smell of the grass outside. He described the sky to her in vivid colors. He told her stories about his mom, about how she used to sing lullabies and how their cat always knocked over the flower pot. Luna never replied, but she listened. Each day, something changed. She would tilt her head toward Ethan's voice. She would smile, barely. And once, she giggled when Ethan did an impression of a dinosaur. A soft, brief sound, but one that made Michael's throat tighten. Michael didn't know what to make of it, so he just let it continue. Quietly, without interfering. One cloudy Thursday afternoon, Michael was mopping the 3rd floor when he saw him, Gregory Montgomery. The man was imposing in every sense. Sharp suit, steely gray eyes, jaw so tight it could cut glass. 2 bodyguards flanked him. Gregory paused outside the sunroom. Through the glass, he saw his daughter sitting with Ethan, who was pretending to read a comic book aloud. "She lets him sit with her?" Gregory asked, voice low. Michael swallowed. "Yes, sir. She seems to like it. Ethan's my son." Gregory looked at Michael properly for the first time. "You're the janitor." "Yes, sir." Silence stretched. Then Gregory said something unexpected. "No one's been able to get her to react for 2 years. I've paid for the best therapist's money can buy. But this boy." Michael didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. Gregory stepped inside the room for just a moment. Luna didn't react to his presence, didn't even turn her head. But when Ethan asked if she wanted him to bring a triceratops next time, she nodded. It was enough to make the mighty CEO stumble slightly in his stance. The next day, something extraordinary happened. A storm rolled over San Francisco, thunder rumbling like distant drums. The staff tried to distract the children with cartoons and puzzles, but Luna's anxiety was clear. Her hands trembled. She curled into herself. Ethan sat beside her, confused but calm. "Don't be scared," he whispered. "It's just clouds talking. Mommy used to say that when it rains, it's angels washing the sky." Luna didn't move. Ethan leaned closer. "Hey, wanna know a secret?" he whispered. Michael was standing just outside the room, wiping down a windowpane. "You're not broken. You're just special." Mommy said special people have the biggest hearts. There was a long pause. Then, so soft it barely registered. "Do you really think so?" Michael froze. His heart thudded in his chest. Inside the room, Ethan's face lit up. I know so, he said. Outside, a nurse gasped. Another dropped her clipboard. One by one, staff gathered around the window. Some cried. Luna Montgomery had spoken, for the first time in 2 years. They called Gregory immediately. When he arrived, he rushed into the room, no longer the cold businessman, but a desperate father. Luna turned her head toward the sound of his footsteps. Daddy, she whispered. I talked. Did you hear me? Gregory fell to his knees beside her, his hands shaking. I heard you, Luna, he choked out. I heard every word. He held her close, as if afraid she might vanish again. And she clung to him like a lifeline. In the doorway stood Michael, with Ethan quietly holding his hand. That evening, Gregory requested a private meeting with Michael. They sat in a quiet corner office, wood-paneled and overlooking the city skyline. I owe you everything, Gregory began. Or rather, your son. Michael said nothing. Gregory leaned forward. I've spent millions trying to reach her. I thought I failed her. You didn't fail her, Michael replied gently. She just needed something different. Someone who didn't expect anything. Gregory looked up sharply. You're raising Ethan alone. Michael nodded. My wife passed last year. Gregory's eyes softened just slightly. And yet you raised a boy kind enough to heal someone else. He stood and walked over to the window. I want to offer you something, Michael. Not just gratitude. I want you and Ethan to be part of her life, officially. I'll cover Ethan's schooling, housing, if needed, and I'd like to offer you a position here, on my personal staff. Not janitorial, something more stable. Michael blinked. I don't need charity, he said quietly. It's not charity, it's an opportunity. For Ethan, for you, for Luna. Michael looked down at his hands. For the first time in months, he felt something stir in his chest, something like hope. He finally said, if Ethan is okay with it, we'll try. Gregory nodded. Good, let's begin a new chapter, for all of us. And so, what began as silence turned into something more, a beginning. The days that followed Luna's first words were filled with a mixture of cautious optimism and wonder. The center buzzed with quiet celebration. Doctors called it a miracle, nurses cried quietly at their desks, and Gregory Montgomery arrived more frequently, though this time, without bodyguards or suits. But no one was as consistent, as gentle, or as meaningful to Luna as Ethan. Ethan didn't change just because Luna had spoken. He didn't bombard her with questions or act surprised. He continued, as always, to simply be her friend. He read to her, sang to her, played with toy animals, and sometimes just sat quietly beside her. His presence was never demanding. Luna spoke rarely, and only to Ethan. Her words were small, shy, and often unsure, like stepping stones across a river. But each word she offered built a bridge between her silence and the world. Michael, now working in a new position as assistant facilities manager, thanks to Gregory's offer, watched from a respectful distance. He never interfered, but each time he saw Luna smile at Ethan or respond with a nod, he felt something shift in his chest. Hope. One late afternoon, Luna turned her face toward Ethan during their usual quiet time. Will I ever go to a real school? She asked. Ethan thought for a moment. I think you can, but maybe not all at once. Daddy says people go at their own speed. I'm scared, she whispered. It's okay to be scared. I was scared when I started school too. But you don't have to do it alone. Luna turned toward the window. She couldn't see the world outside, but she was learning to sense it, through sound, smell, and most importantly, trust. Trust in Ethan. That evening, Michael found Gregory sitting alone in the sunroom. The powerful CEO looked smaller somehow. No bodyguards, no briefcase, just a father in a soft wool sweater. I want to try something, Gregory said, his voice tired but hopeful. I want to take Luna home. Michael paused. Is she ready? Gregory looked down at his hands. I don't know, but I think I'm finally ready to be her father. It wasn't the words that moved Michael, but the sincerity behind them. He nodded. Then maybe you should ask her. They sat together in Luna's room the next day. Gregory, for once, didn't speak like a man used to being obeyed. He sat beside her and waited. Luna, he said softly, would you like to come home? We can make the house quieter. And Ethan can visit, or stay, if you want. Luna reached for his hand. Will there be birds? Gregory blinked. Birds. I like birds. I can't see them, but I like the way they sound. Gregory smiled. Then we'll have birds. A whole garden, if you want. Luna nodded. Okay. It was the first time she had said, "okay," to her father in 2 years. A week later, Luna left Rosewood. She held Ethan's hand all the way to the car, with Michael walking behind them. The transition wasn't perfect. There were moments of panic, sleepless nights, and days when Luna barely said a word. But she was no longer silent. She was trying. And Gregory, he was changing too. He began to work from home. He took long walks with Luna in the garden. He built her a small outdoor reading room and hired a gentle, patient tutor who spoke in whispers and never pushed. Still, Luna's progress wasn't linear. She often asked for Ethan. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, she would wake crying, not from fear, but from memories she couldn't fully express. One night, Gregory sat at her bedside, unsure what to do. She reached out, grasping his sleeve. "I remember the crash," she said quietly. "I remember Mommy. I remember the glass." Gregory froze. "You never talk about it," she added. "No one does." Gregory's breath hitched. His voice, when he finally spoke, was thick with emotion. "Because it was my fault." Luna turned toward him. "I was supposed to drive that day," he continued. "But I had a meeting. So your mother took you instead." "I was late, Luna. I was late for everything. Your school plays, bedtime stories, even that morning. And then she died, and I didn't know how to look at you without seeing my failure." Luna's voice trembled. "But I didn't need perfect. I just needed you." Gregory broke. Tears he had held back for 2 years finally spilled over. He pulled Luna into his arms and held her tightly, not as a man trying to fix something, but as a father learning to feel again. As weeks passed, Luna grew stronger. She learned Braille. She began using a white cane. She even joined a small private school that specialized in visually impaired children. Gregory made sure Ethan was enrolled in the same school, offering to cover everything. Michael initially refused, but Ethan begged to stay close to Luna, and Michael eventually gave in. The two children walked the school corridors hand in hand. On the day of the school's spring recital, a surprise was announced. Luna and Ethan would perform together. A simple reading, nothing dramatic, but for Luna, it was everything. Michael sat in the second row, nerves buzzing. Gregory sat beside him, suit abandoned for a soft jacket, hands shaking slightly. The curtains opened. Luna stood at the microphone, one hand on Ethan's shoulder, the other gripping a Braille notecard. The audience held its breath. And then, "My name is Luna Montgomery," she said clearly. "And for a long time, I was silent. I was scared. I thought, the world didn't want to hear me." She paused. Ethan gave her a nod. "But someone whispered something to me that I never forgot." She turned slightly toward Ethan. "He told me I wasn't broken. Just special, and that special people have the biggest hearts." Michael's eyes brimmed with tears. He reached for a tissue as the room fell completely silent. Luna continued, "So now, I want to speak. Even if my voice shakes. Even if it's soft. Because silence doesn't mean I have nothing to say. It just means I'm waiting for someone who listens." The auditorium erupted in applause. Gregory stood, clapping through the tears running down his face. Michael did too. Even some of the teachers wept. It was not just a performance, it was a triumph. That night, as they returned home, Luna asked Gregory something she hadn't before. "Can Ethan stay over, like, forever?" Gregory glanced in the rearview mirror at Ethan, who was already asleep, curled against Luna's side. Michael chuckled. "I mean, that's kind of a big ask." But Gregory smiled. "Maybe we can work something out." They didn't need to define it. Family doesn't always follow definitions. Months passed. Luna spoke more confidently. She began writing poetry in Braille. She started a small podcast with Ethan's help called Voices in the Quiet, where she interviewed children like her, those who'd been through trauma, loss, or felt invisible. It became a quiet sensation. Gregory funded it, Michael managed it, Ethan co-hosted it, and Luna, she owned it, with a quiet grace that had once been hidden beneath years of silence. Her voice, once a whisper in the dark, had become a beacon.